Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for the Gameweek 35 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, the video where we look at some transfer trends and try and identify which are the good and bad ones to go for. If you do enjoy this one, guys, please do leave a like, really helps out the channel, and do subscribe if you're new around here. But first, let's have a look at the rules of the video. So buys a players you probably don't have but you consider bringing in, sells a players you probably have but you consider removing, keeps a players you might be thinking about removing. I think you should keep them, and avoids the players who are pretty hyped up right now. I think they are potential traps that maybe just could be avoided. 2 players in each category. Let's start off with some buys. So our first buy is going to be Marcus Rashford. I think this is a pretty obvious one, to be fair. Really, really good fixtures coming up as long as you appreciate the fact that West Ham and Wolves are not too bad fixtures. I mean, West Ham have dropped off recently. I know they've been a decent defence historically. Wolves, again, another team who were good defensively, but particularly when Wolves are playing away from home, I think they've actually been pretty weak. Their numbers away from home are really, really bad. And I'm wondering if Marcus Rashford could do the business there as well. After that, game week 37, we do have a nice double game week for the Manchester United guys. Bournemouth away is in that double, which is really nice, and a Chelsea team that things are not going great for them right now is also in there. And then finally, Fulham at home. So you can really take your Manchester United players from now until the end of the season. Rashford is definitely one of those players that you look at for the remainder of the season, think a 4-game period, this is perfect for him. And if you've already got yourself a Marcus Rashford, maybe you could think about adding in a Bruno Fernandes to that mix, or maybe even a defender as well. Luke Shaw, David De Gea, maybe there as well. But the triple up on Manchester United is definitely on, and there's no reason not to start that triple up right now. Get that triple up ready for that double game week, because to be fair, the fixtures in the next 2 are well worth investing in Manchester United as well, as they look to hold on to their top 4 position in the Premier League. Marcus Rashford, of course, very, very good value for money at 7.2 million. He's only got 1 goal in the last 3 games that have come in the last 5 game weeks, but 2.82 expected goals is really, really high, and we have finally seen him get back on the score sheet over the last week or so. So that's really good for him. Hopefully that's going to bring it in a new era of form for him, as we saw slightly earlier on in the year. And therefore, are we going to see some more goals from Marcus Rashford? Well, the numbers suggest yes, we will. Hopefully improving form will say yes, he will. And in addition to that, Rashford is now playing as a central striker as well, and he's been doing quite well in that role, as some of the other players have come in and taken the wing positions for Rashford instead. So yeah, Rashford looks like a must-own player from now until the end of the season. And if you've already got him, maybe you could look elsewhere, other Manchester United options. But if you don't have him, you have to buy him. Next buy is going to be a little bit of more of an interesting one, and a player that is not really being hyped up too much, I think, in the wider FPL world. So I'm going to talk about him here, and that is Julian Alvarez. Of course, he missed out in the tier list video I made yesterday because he wasn't one of the most popular transfers in. So this could be a real differential, and this is what I'm talking about. This is why I like Alvarez, and I know going into the last 4 game weeks of the season, sometimes you are looking for that player who is going to make the difference for you. Go for that player with really, really low ownership, and Alvarez, I know this sounds like a bit of a knee-jerk from last game week, but in fairness, we have had some really good comments from Pep Guardiola recently, basically saying that he wants to find a way of fitting in Alvarez into the starting 11, even when Haaland is playing, even when De Bruyne is playing as well. He wants to play all of 3 of them together, which is really a testament to how good Alvarez has been whenever he has played for Manchester City. Now, that could mean that Alvarez is going to be playing on the left wing or potentially the right wing, but I think he's more suited to a left wing position. That could potentially eat into the minutes of Jack Grealish, potentially. I'm not exactly sure, but what I can say about Alvarez is, even though he's not 100% nailed and he is a risky player to go for, he is an incredibly high reward player. High risk, but also a high reward, and not a lot of people will be willing to take that risk. But whenever he's on the pitch, whenever he starts games, he gets mega scores, he gets mega hauls, and we've seen that again in game week 34 already, and I think that's going to continue. Whenever he starts, it's going to look really good for him, and with so many fixtures coming up for Manchester City, Champions League footballers as well, there's going to be a little bit of rotation for Man City, especially now that they have kind of begun to sew up the league a little bit now. So maybe we're going to see the likes of Erling Haaland get the odd rest. Alvarez is going to come in. Maybe we're going to see De Bruyne with the injury problems he's had recently, maybe missing out in game week 35. I mean, De Bruyne, at time of recording, has only just rejoined training and doing some light movement, I guess, which is not really too promising for the weekend. In addition to that, we might even get early Man City team news. We do sometimes get that, and if it appears that Alvarez is starting, I feel like he is a player I would really want to buy if I'm looking for that differential, take a risk, sell one of your other forwards. But again, it is a really risky pick. So if you're happy with risks, then Alvarez is definitely the kind of differential that could catapult you up the ranks with a little bit of time to go before the end of the season. If it's a little bit too much for you or you're happy with your rank already, then maybe give this one a miss. On to some sells. Gabriel is going to be the first man on the sell list, I guess. And I think I'll probably apply the same logic to all Arsenal defenders. I think we can just get rid of them at this point. Newcastle away is not a great fixture. Newcastle have gone from a team who kind of concede few goals and they don't really score very many to a team that just will not stop scoring goals. Newcastle are scoring so many goals at the moment, and Arsenal, their defensive numbers are really poor. You can see on screen, guys, in the last 4 Premier League games, 11 goals conceded, 9.98 expected goals conceded there as well. And Gabriel is not exactly putting up great attacking numbers either. 0.29 expected goal involvements there with only 1 shot per game during this period, and they've been pretty low kind of quality chances as well. So Newcastle, a great attack. Brighton, another great attack in the Premier League right now. These are 2 back-to-back fixtures where it's very difficult to justify having this much money invested in on Arsenal defenders. So would not be buying Arsenal defenders right now. Would be looking to sell a lot of them as well, particularly if you can get the likes of, you know, Manchester United defenders in, for example, or maybe if you only have 1 or 2 Brighton defenders already, maybe you could sell Gabriel or Ben White or Zinchenko or Saliba or whoever you have to a Brighton or Manchester United defender. I think that's the way I would probably be looking to go if I still was invested in the Arsenal defense. So yeah, sell those Arsenal defenders. And also sell the Arsenal attackers. Yeah, I don't think there's a place for them. Newcastle are a team that is not going to concede too many goals. They kind of concede 1 goal per game typically. So if that's the case, then who is the goal going to come from? Is it going to come from Odegaard? Is it going to come from Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Jesus? Who is to say? There's a lot of players that can get attacking returns for Arsenal, but it's very difficult to pinpoint which one it will be. Now, Martin Odegaard, I would say, aside from Trossard, is probably the weakest of the Arsenal attackers right now. His numbers aren't particularly good. Yes, he's got a couple of goals recently, but he's done it from kind of a low-quality chances, and it doesn't really look too sustainable, I don't think. So, therefore, maybe he is the kind of player we'd be looking to remove. He's not as creative as he has been previously in the season as well, and Arsenal's downturn in form and a couple of difficult fixtures means it's actually going to be pretty easy to sell Arsenal players. So Odegaard would be a player I'd be very keen to sell. Saka is another player I would potentially sell. Martinelli is a player who I would think about selling. I don't think you have to sell Martinelli as much as maybe some of the other guys, because Martinelli has shown a little bit more form than the other guys. Even Gabriel Jesus, I'd think about selling him as well, particularly if you're willing to take a punt on the likes of Alvarez, for example. But yeah, if you've got an Odegaard or a Saka in your team and you are kind of missing Rashford, or you're missing a Bruno Fernandes, or you're missing one of the Brighton midfielders, for example, I think now is a really good time to sell those Arsenal players and take advantage of the great fixtures, the great form, and the double game weeks presented by some of the other midfielders in FPL right now. On to some keeps, and would you believe this? Kaoru Mitoma is one of the most sold players in FPL at time of recording, and I find this crazy. And I know a lot of you guys have previously said in the comment section, Dan, you are so harsh on Mitoma. Why do you always say he's a bad player? Why do you always underrate him? I want to try and put the record right here a little bit, guys, because I have never hated Kaoru Mitoma. I think he's a fantastic football player and a really good Brighton asset to own. In fact, after Solly March, it's probably between him and Pervis Estupiñán as who I would consider the second best, I guess. So if you already have him, consider yourself very lucky. And I know he has blanked recently. I know the fact that he was benched probably puts a lot of people off him. But look, he needed to be rotated. He's played a lot of games recently, and now he's had his rest. I wouldn't be surprised if he played 6 out of 6 of the remaining games from game week 35 onwards. I think he will play every single game in this period. I really do. And in that time, he is going to be getting attacking returns. And he's been unlucky not to get attacking returns. You can see that on screen, guys. 1 expected goal, 0.4 expected assists during this 4-game period with only 3 starts. Those are pretty decent numbers for a 5.6 million midfielder. And when you consider the double game weeks and the great fixtures around the double game weeks as well, I really think you can do a lot worse than to go for a Kaoru Mitoma. So not only would I be keeping this player, but I would also consider buying him as well. I know a lot of you guys are thinking about mixing up your Brighton midfielders. If you've got a McAllister right now, I would swap him for March, but I don't know if I would swap him for Mitoma. but I would certainly keep Mitoma if I already had him. And guys, before you start shouting at me from how I'm pronouncing his name, just trust me, I watch a lot of anime, I am a fan of the Japanese culture, and I am pronouncing it in the correct Japanese way. So yeah, Kaoru Mitoma, that is how you say it, and that is a player who you should definitely be keeping. Can't believe people are selling him. Crazy. Jack Grealish is another player who I would keep, and another player that is being heavily sold, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe people are trying to pivot to De Bruyne, who might not even be available for this game week. I don't know. Maybe people want Alvarez as a differential so much that they're willing to sell Grealish in order to do that. I don't think I would do that personally. I certainly would not be taking a -4 to swap Grealish for another Man City player, and I can't really think of any other reasons why you would sell him, to be honest. I mean, he's played most games. I expect he will play most of the remaining games. I don't know if he's 100% nailed on, but I still consider that he would be a good player to own in general, and we're talking about Leeds at home. Like, that's pretty much the best fixture you can get at the moment. Maybe things change a little bit with the change of management for Leeds, but aside from that, I just feel like this is a really good fixture for all Man City attackers, and I would not be looking to sell them at all for this game. If it does look like Grealish is going to start getting rotated a little bit at the tail end of the season, then maybe we can reconsider this, maybe we can talk about it again. But right now, Grealish has been putting up some pretty decent numbers. I mean, you can see them on screen. He's got over 2 expected goal involvements in the last 4 games. That's very, very good. And yes, he doesn't get the mega scores, but he ticks along very, very nicely for a 7.3 million player. So yeah, I would keep him. Finally, some avoids. Controversial, of course. Pascal Gross is firmly in this category, the 3rd most popular transfer in at time of recording, because people are aware that Brighton have a lot of great fixtures coming up. They have a lot of double game weeks coming up, and people want to buy the Brighton attackers. So they look on the FPL website, or they look at the recent Premier League scores, and they say, Pascal Gross, he just scored 2 goals. Maybe he's going to score some more. He's got a good total FPL points. Maybe that's indication. He scored a lot of goals earlier on in the season. Maybe this is a good indication that he's going to score more. Well, my answer to you guys is no. No, that is not true. Pascal Gross, of course, hasn't scored a Premier League goal since game week 19. Before that, you know, he was scoring a little bit, but that was down to him playing a different position. He was playing as a pretty much a striker, or a second striker, I guess, under Graham Potter. When De Zerbi came in, Gross has been playing consistently in the central defensive midfield position. He's been playing very, very, very deep, and that's why he hasn't really scored many goals, hasn't really got any assists or anything like that. Now, in game week 34, we saw a little bit of a break from the trend, and Pascal Gross managed to get himself a couple of goal-scoring opportunities, and he seized them. They were low chance goal-scoring opportunities. They were very, very kind of good goals in a way. Well, one of them certainly was a very, very good goal. But what I'm saying is that he's not going to be able to do that every single game week, and I wouldn't take game week 34 as a sign that these gross returns are going to continue. I think we'll see less returns. I think we won't see a gross number of returns. That's all I'm going to say on that one. But yeah, I just feel like, I know he scored well in game week 34, but it's not looking likely to continue. Nothing suggests that it's likely to continue. So I think this is actually a really, really big trap that people are falling into. If you want a Brighton midfielder, go for Solly March. I know he got 1 point last game week. Get over it. That's in the past. We don't care about past points. If you're looking for new Brighton midfielders, you care about future points. That's what you care about. Obviously, Mitoma is there as well. If you want another Brighton midfielder, if you want to go for McAllister, I think he's still a better option than Gross as well. So yeah, Gross is still the 4th best Brighton midfielder to go for. And yeah, really, really would not be buying him. No, definitely an avoid. And final avoid, we're going to go for Fabian Schar here. I know people are looking to get in a Newcastle players, and I don't mind a Newcastle attacker against Arsenal, because Arsenal have been conceding a few goals. However, I'm not sure this is the one. I'm not sure this is the one to go for the kind of defenders. You know, Fabian Schar, Botman, even Trippier, if you don't have him already. Would you really be buying him this week? I am currently looking at actually benching Trippier for my own personal team this game week. I don't know 100% that I am going to bench Trippier, but it's something that's certainly on the cards. It's just that Newcastle concede a goal per game. That's what they're doing, and you're really struggling to get clean sheets out of them recently. And Arsenal, you know, they're not exactly an easy attack to go up against as a defender, are they? So, yes, we probably would want to pick up a player like Fabian Schar for game week 36, but for game week 35, I don't think it's the right time. I would wait one more game week before going in on the Newcastle defence. And if you already have Newcastle defenders, I would consider benching them this game week as well, depending on who they are, of course. So Fabian Schar, it's going to be an avoid. And you know what else? He takes up a valuable Newcastle slot, which could be really valuable next week. I mean, maybe you want to get an Isak or a Wilson or a Joelinton. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I'd be going for another defender, personally. I'd rather go for the attackers, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say on that one. Fabian Schar is going to be an avoid. In conclusion, guys, I don't think we actually need to make transfers this game week, funnily enough. I would consider rolling those transfers to the future double game weeks because we've got double game week next week, double game week the week after. Maybe it would be a good idea to get in a strong position for those kind of weeks as well and kind of see what happens this week. We might see a little bit of rotation with the busy fixture schedule around about now as well. So any transfer you're going to make is going to be a risk, and I'm sure you're already thinking about benching some pretty decent players. I know I am. So I don't think a transfer is essential this week, but if you are missing some of the key players from the likes of Man United, Brighton, and I guess Manchester City as well, the three teams that I would really be targeting right now, then maybe I would go for that transfer. But that's going to be down to you and your own personal teams. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. Don't forget to check out the tier list video that I posted yesterday. And if you did enjoy this one today, please do leave a like. Of course, do subscribe if you're new around here. Hoping to get out a couple of videos tomorrow. We're going to try and do a double upload day, but we'll see how I feel. It's been a lot of videos recently, I have to admit. But guys, thank you very much for watching them all. I do appreciate it so much. But until I see you on the next one, I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.